Hi, I'm Matt. I am an advertising writer on the creative side of the business, and as a result, we creatives hate talking about advertising, so that's why the title of this was actually, it looks like it's an underthought title, Let's Overthink, but I really put a lot of time in it to try to drive people away, so you guys failed. That's my business partner, Bo, back there. Together we are Kickstand. And I broke it. It breaks every time I touch it. Is that how this works? Okay, cool. Here, I did that out of order. That was supposed to be me introducing myself. There, that's Bo. We had an intern make these silhouettes. This one's a little out of date. If you're interested in an exciting internship opportunity of making silhouettes of your bosses, then leave us. We can update Bo's to be more beard accurate at the stage of growth that it is now. Anyway, so I thought I got an idea from Bo, and my wife is here. Hi, Ashley. We were at a client's house recently who any video game players here? Anybody Borderlands fan? The game studio that makes that is here in town, Gearbox. They're one of our clients, and the owner has this insane house with like a little theater, like a variety show theater attached to it, and he just invites people to go watch variety shows there. And there was a magician that he did like that ring act that where the rings link and come apart that you've seen a million times, but he set it up by going through his entire lineage of the magicians that taught him and the magicians that taught that guy, and all the way back to, ancient China, and it just made you take the trick a lot more seriously. So I thought I would trace my advertising lineage back as far as I could, and I could only get as far as yes. Oh, what a feeling, Toyota. My boss learned advertising from that guy. So that's not nearly as impressive a lineage as I was hoping, so, but that was the best I could do. I did, as Grant said, I started at this place, the Richards Group, and I worked with some super impressive people. So one of my partners was the guy that created the Chick-fil-A cows, Eat More Chicken. One of my creative directors was one of the two people behind the famous Nike campaign, Bo knows, from the 80s and 90s. And then we all worked for this guy, Stan Richards, his name is on the new UT advertising center, the Stan Richards School of Advertising and Public Relations, is that what it is? He's been behind a lot of famous advertising work over the years. So Motel 6, the Ram trucks and God Made a Farmer ad on the Super Bowl from a few years ago. Lots and lots of Chick-fil-A, yeah, lots and lots of stuff. So I worked with impressive people. Well, what did I do while I was there? I am proud to say that I hold the record for the lowest scoring copy tested script in the history of copy testing at the Richards Group. It's the thing I'm the most proud of from my time there. Copy testing, I don't think they do it as much anymore as they used to, but before the internet, when you can just put work out there and see what people responded to before you spend a lot of money behind it, you would have to make a really cheap version of it called an animatic. So it was this sort of roughly animated version of a TV commercial, and then you'd hire people to sit in a room with little dials and watch just animatic after animatic after animatic, and they would turn the dial according to their interest level. And you would look at the little graph afterwards and see, oh, they lost interest at this point, and they were engaged here, and it was complete nonsense, but people spent a lot of money on it. And yeah, my script for a tomato company was the worst testing script that they had ever seen, so I'm very proud of that. Anyway, about 6 years ago, I left this place and started a business with Bo. We are Kickstand, and if we have an advertising philosophy, it's that the message in advertising isn't really the message, it's the subtext that matters. And what I mean by that is, it's not the words you use nearly as much as it's how you say the words. It's not what's explicit, it's what's implicit. And I could talk on that point for forever and ever, but there's one particular ad I saw years ago that kind of just makes it clear in an instant. And these are billboards. So these were billboards that were all over the state of Texas many years ago. And the message is Laredo is safe. They're trying to get people to go to Laredo. But what's the subtext in this? What's the context that this is being added? What does it accidentally tell you that it's not trying to tell you? That it's not safe. The subtext is exactly the opposite of the text. We wouldn't be advertising if people thought we were safe. So this happens all the time. Not nearly as bad as this. I was really happy. I looked this up recently. I haven't looked into this in a while. And that LaredoIsSafe.com website does not exist anymore, which is not a surprise. But what we like to do is get our clients to try to think about advertising this way, in a different way, to think about all the subconscious associations that people have when they evaluate advertising. We're bombarded with it. We see more advertising than any other generation. We're actually really, really sophisticated, even those of us that aren't in the business, really sophisticated at evaluating ads on a subconscious level. I was taught explicitly and implicitly that people are stupid and don't know how to evaluate ads, and I've never really believed that. But what I do believe is that people are lazy and they don't like to think rationally about stuff because their subconscious machinery is really effective at doing the work for them. There's a book. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to hold it off on that for a second. Is this flickering still? Okay. Yeah, I should move. There's a famous, so people are really, really good at evaluating any kind of message, whether it's advertising or whether it's social interactions, to find out what other people are doing. It's an instinct that goes back to millions of years ago, where our survival depends on understanding what other people are doing and conforming our behavior to match, because that tends to be the safest thing to do. It's the wisdom of the crowd thing. So there's a famous example in social science of a sign at a petrified forest. So does anybody know this story? So like one of the national forests, petrified wood, and they had a problem with people going to the forest and then taking pieces of the petrified wood out. So they put up a sign, and they evaluated the effectiveness of this sign. They put up two signs at different times. So they put up one sign that said, the one on the right here, many past visitors have removed petrified wood from the park, changing the natural state of the petrified forest. And what they found up, and then it had a request after it asking people not to take petrified wood. But what they found was the incidence of people stealing petrified wood went up with this sign, because people could tell this is what most people do. I'm missing out if I don't do it. So they put up a different sign that said, there's a third sign on here that's not on here, but the second sign they put up said, please don't remove the petrified wood from the park in order to preserve the natural state of the petrified forest. So that actually helped drop the incidence of stealing. The one that was the most effective was the one that said most visitors choose not to take petrified wood from the forest to preserve its natural state. So when you're able to demonstrate that other people are already doing something, people are more likely to do it. And that tends to be the most important subtext in making an effective advertising message. And that was what the Laredo one missed out on most. In the Laredo is safe instance, the subtext is, people aren't going to Laredo, therefore I shouldn't go to Laredo. So if you guys are ever in a position where you make ads, make sure you think this stuff through. So one of the questions is, how do people actually evaluate these kind of subconscious things. And there's a book that we're big fans of called Thinking Fast and Slow by a sociologist named Daniel Kahneman. And his whole argument is it's not about advertising, it's just about how people think. And his argument is that everybody has two independent brain systems that they use to process anything. He calls them System 1 and System 2. They loosely analogous to emotional thinking and rational thinking, subconscious thinking and conscious thinking, but none of those are super accurate because both systems are active at all times. But the System 1 is the system that we use to actually do math, think through an argument rationally, evaluate whether something makes sense or not. And System 2 is purely reactive, based on past experience. So it analyzes what's in front of you and compares it to other things you've experienced and helps you to make decisions based on what it reminds you of, essentially. So so it's the way you judge somebody based on what they're wearing. It's not like you're actively deciding this is this kind of person because of reason A, B, and C. It's just you've met people that dress a certain way like that before, and they had a certain similar behavior. So your brain tells you, okay, that's this kind of person. And that's the main way that people evaluate advertising is with that System 2. So they're looking at colors and fonts, and they're looking at the context of the ad and the style of the people in the ad, and they're making brand judgments based on all of the other advertising they've seen before, without knowing that they're actually doing it. It's super effective, and it helps them decide what brands are trustworthy, what brands aren't trustworthy. There's another, yeah.
Does that also then play into sort of biases?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, when you look at the lack of racial diversity
Yep.
or whatever, so those decisions are basically then made on, I know this, it feels familiar, I grew up with this.
Exactly.
It talks to me, and or it doesn't because it's not even part of my universe.
Yeah, that's very much so. It's the same part of the brain that is involved in racial bias. There's a lot of negative fallout from how much we rely on this part of our brain, but you can't dismiss it either. It's essential. And that's the other point. Thanks for eventually dragging me there. But what he talks about in this book is that the rational, evaluative part of our brains actually is much more expensive for us to use in terms of fuel cost. It literally wears us out. It uses sugar to engage. It uses a lot of attention and energy, whereas this part of our brain that just reacts to things and compares to other experiences is really easy to use. That's the fast and slow thing in the title of the book. So fast thinking is the associative part of the brain. Slow thinking is the expensive, energy-consuming one. And we're hit with so much advertising that we can't afford to evaluate it all consciously. Literally don't have the energy for it. So we have to use our relatively sophisticated analogous brain to evaluate stuff. And it works in our favor most of the time, and other times it doesn't and hurts us. But as advertisers, people that are interested in telling a message, either at the service of our clients, or if you're trying to create some sort of social change and get a message out, change people's minds about an issue, you can't do it if you aren't engaging with people's subconscious minds as well, and just as effective way as you are on the explicit language piece. So, any questions on that before I get into some work? I'm going to go through some work we've done and talk about what we were trying to do and see whether we were effective or not, and then I'm going to get into some of the Super Bowl ads from from last weekend. But any pushback or questions on the actual thesis? Did I get, Bo, is the thesis, have I regurgitated it as accurately as we try to? Okay, thanks. Thanks. Okay, nobody? All right, jumping into some work. So I'm going to have you look at some things we've done and see if you can tell what the subtext we were trying to convey in some of these ads was. This was one I did right after I left the Richards Group for a local chicken restaurant called Chicken Scratch. Can everybody read that from, I don't know how big. So it says, between some trailers and a condemned motel, and there's a guy in the corner that says, bring your kids. So what was the subtext we were trying to convey there? Don't bring your kids there. Yeah, maybe it was, yeah.
It's not funky, it's laid back, you don't have to wear your Sunday best to... The food is better than the location.
There you go. That's exactly what we were trying. So what we were trying to imply is that this restaurant could not have survived in its terrible location unless the food was extraordinary. So whether we were effective at that or not is up to you guys. But that was what started my solo career and did pretty well for them. Any? Okay.
But it made me laugh. It's funny.
Cool.
It intrigues me when it says, I want to go there.
And that is a huge subtext in making any good ad, is if you can make people like the ad on a very, like an internal level, then they're going to accidentally like the brand as well, which is kind of the point of all humor advertising. People associate humor with intelligence, people associate humor with likability, so if you can effectively be funny at something, then they're gonna like you for it. So yeah, that's for sure a part of it. And I mean, the hope is that even if, part of the reason I don't love talking about advertising is all of this part of it is really difficult to put into words. And the hope is, even if you didn't consciously pick up what we were trying to say, is that some part of you was like, they must have really good food, whether you were aware of it or not. And honestly, if you weren't aware of it, it was probably more effective. So.
Is creating intrigue a part of it that you would know?
Yeah.
You don't really get it or understand, but you're intrigued by it?
Yeah, absolutely. Did anybody see, I wasn't going to talk about it in the Super Bowl part, but did anybody see the Heinz commercial? Where it had like a split screen with 4 different ads going at the same time? I did not understand that ad at all, but I looked it up afterwards and spent a lot more time thinking about Heinz as a result than I would have if they'd done anything else. So yeah, absolutely, that's the tactic, is just to try to stop people. You see so many ads that if you can, stop somebody in their tracks and get them to engage, that's a win too. So, okay, here's another one. This is let's see. This is a video. We'll see how it sounds.
So I'm Greg Dusor. I'm an associate professor of behavioral and brain sciences, and I'm co-inventor of TED's Pain Cream. We developed TED's Pain Cream based on the peer-reviewed research that we've been conducting in the laboratory.
So you're the co-inventor of TED's Pain Cream?
Yes, correct. So we developed TED's Pain Cream based on the peer-reviewed research.
If you're the co-inventor, how come it's not Ted and Greg's Pain Cream?
I was told by marketing people that TED's Pain Cream sounded better. Anyway, we developed TED's Pain Cream based on the peer-reviewed work that we've been doing in the laboratory.
I don't mean to keep pressing this, I can't help but wonder how it feels to be part of this whole new discovery and then just have your name be left off.
It's fine.
So I said, it's not the pain, it's the nociceptors.
I said it was fine. I did. My name is
Greg.
What?
Remarkably effective at eliminating many types of pain. Though, probably not the kind of pain you feel when you help invent a new pain treatment and the marketing guys name it after your partner. Ted's Pain Cream with resveratrol. A new way to outsmart pain.
My name is Greg.
So, any guesses of what we were trying to imply in that, rather than say out loud? Whoops.
It's the smart one, and then when like the person that developed this is smart, he knows what he's doing, so it actually works.
Definitely trying to imply things about the effectiveness of it. Yeah. What else? Anybody? Yeah, Chris.
He's like a master at making a product, but just nothing else. So like he's super good at it, and then just terrible at everything else.
Cool. Yeah, that's I like that. That's part of it. I have what we were trying to say in mind, but again, it's anybody's. It's up for interpretation how well we did. Any other guesses? Yeah.
That for all other pain, I don't know what you can use, but for his actual pain, that's pain cream.
Yep. That's the actual text, so that literally said that at the end. Yeah, for sure. Remarkably effective at eliminating many types of pain, though probably not the kind of pain you feel when they name the product after your partner, not you. Yeah, absolutely. Empathy? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So just liking, general likability of the brand. Absolutely. So it helps to understand some of the context of what we were trying to do. So we're the people that named it Ted's. We're the people that branded it. The interesting thing about this particular product is it's the only topical over-the-counter pain treatment in a generation that's based on new science and actually has data behind it. And our belief was that that in a context where people are sitting and watching videos, if you try to over-explain something to them, it's going to get lumped in with all the other snake oil that's out there that has, attempts to have claims, attempts to talk you through the rational reasons why you should believe their research. There's just so much fake but plausible sounding research out there in the space of pain cream especially, and it's getting worse these days, that we wanted to stand out by not even making the argument, by putting in the context of legitimate science at a university, which is where they developed it, and mentioning that there was peer review, but being showing the kind of like courage to not even engage with the argument, to just trust the audience to figure it out for themselves. When you have that kind of confidence, it makes you seem more trustworthy. That was the goal anyway. So I don't know that we completely nailed it, but that was what we were going after. So here's one that didn't work the way we wanted it to. So we did an ad for this place back when we started here, and it goes like this. The world's first co-working space without inspirational quotes on the walls. That's the subtext there we were trying to get after wasn't necessarily, it was more the subtext of co-working spaces with inspirational quotes on the wall. So when I see an inspirational quote in an office space, it makes me react a certain way. Maybe I'm the only person that reacts this way, but no? So what is you guys' reaction to seeing inspirational quotes at
Makes me feel like I'm at WeWork.
Yeah. It makes me feel like the people that put it up there think I need to be inspired, think that I'm not doing good enough on my own. Like, that's the subtext that I react to. So we wanted to be like, we're not going to do that. We're gonna treat members like they don't need to be inspired. But the accidental subtext, according to April Kirby, was that we were assholes. So that one didn't work out. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to misgender that insult. this is the wonkiest slide I have. So one of the most important subtext that's in every single ad is the actual medium itself. But so if you look at this one's hard to unpack. Let me get my head around it. So if you look at the amount of time that people spend on a specific medium versus the amount of money that advertisers spend on that medium, most of them track. So for instance, since 2010, so the left slide, TV spending was 43% of people's time was on TV, and 43% of spending was on TV. And then 8 years later, you look at TV, and it's dropped. The amount of time has dropped, but so is the spending. You look at mobile and desktop. 18% of people's time is on desktop. 18% of people's spending is on desktop. 33% of people's time is on mobile, 33% of spending is on mobile. But the interesting one that's the outlier in all of them is print. So print has been declining steadily for a long time, but its spending has always outpaced its time. So people spend, back in 2010, they spent about, what is that number, 9% of their time, but it got 27% of advertising spending. Now, / 2 years ago, print's down to 3% of people's time, but still, 2.5, 3 times that is spent on it. And so there's an argument that people have tried to make that it's just, it's holdovers, it's advertising people being slow to adapt. But there's a really interesting case that some business people have made that there is actually a value in print beyond its medium, and really a value in any mass market medium that conveys subtext in and of itself. So the argument goes that if you rank each medium by its ability to target, so the most targeted possible medium is probably email marketing, so you know who you're talking to. Spam, and it's super cheap, so from anywhere from spam to MailChimp style marketing campaigns. And then on the other end, you go up to say like a billboard, which falls in the print campaign, which is very, very untargeted because you have 50 times as many people that see it that are actually your possible audience. Well, as you do that, as you go from this sort of spam on the far end here to billboards on the other end here, you winnow the field of peers in your marketing set. So everybody, anybody can send you a spam email, and most of the spam you get is from disreputable, nutraceuticals and who knows? You get all sorts of stuff, and you quickly learn that if you reached out to buy a marketer an email for the first time that you haven't signed up for, they're in a much less trustworthy set of marketers, and you judge them without even realizing you're judging them. As you go up the scale, you get into TV. If you're on TV, you're in a peer group of successful companies that can afford TV. So you're less likely to be scammed by a brand you've never heard of if you see them on TV. It still happens. Local TV could still be super cheap, and people can run some shady stuff there. But the more expensive the advertising medium gets, the more exclusive it gets, and then you're in instinctively, as people evaluate you, you're in kind of rarefied air and more trustworthy consideration sets. So the way they talk about this in marketing theory is they say the waste is the point. So there's a value to advertising to people that aren't your customers, not because people think consciously and go, oh, they must have, they must be a successful company that I could trust because they are on a billboard and on TV, and I've seen them in all these different places. Their subconscious mind is doing that, but it's beyond their awareness because they're just comparing them to the other brands that they've seen that are all enduring and reliable. And so that's, I get really intrigued by how all of this works. And I think the best place to evaluate this is in the most expensive medium of all, which is Super Bowl advertising. So let's go ahead and watch some of those. So every ad on the Super Bowl has, I'm going to ask you anyway, but it has, its most important subtext is the same. So let's watch, this one was the winner on the power rankings, the Jeep commercial. So that was considered by all the ad people that evaluate these things the most effective ad in the Super Bowl. So the text there was, "No day is the same" in a Jeep. Absolutely, a whole lot of different subtext there. I still would argue that the most important subtext is Jeep spent a lot of money on the Super Bowl. There must be a lot of people buying Jeeps. You know, they not only did they spend money on the Super Bowl, they spent money on, they could afford Bill Murray in their Super Bowl ad, and whatever rights it took to work with the studio that owned Groundhog Day. Like, we don't know that we're evaluating that, but I mean, wasting that much money is a signifier of what other people are doing, and it's that peer pressure thing that you don't even know is going on, but it is. The one that I think did it just as well on that particular subtext, I didn't put it in the deck, but was the Hyundai one with the auto park. It had, so the reaction to that subconsciously for all of us was, holy crap, enough people buy Hyundais that they can afford Captain America and Jack Ryan and the SNL alum, and it was a very expensive commercial to put on there. So you're like, that alone makes you reevaluate what you think of Hyundai. So let's see, let's go to another one. This one didn't get much discussion. It wasn't in the top power rankings, but I think it was a fine ad. It wasn't a great, like, the messaging of it wasn't great, but I really liked the subtext of this one, so I thought we'd talk about it. This is the Facebook ad. Excuse me. Nope.
Expect?
I don't know. Me? Okay, you're close enough.
So, again, it's not the funniest ad in the world, but what they did in context of what their brand challenges are, I thought was pretty interesting. So what are your associations with Facebook these days?
Don't be there.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of interactions do you just immediately think of when you think of Facebook? Congressional hearings. Shouting. I don't think of the groups. I mean, I'm saying, pretend you haven't watched this ad. What did you think about Facebook before?
Family and friends.
Okay, that's good. That's much more generous than my feelings these days. But yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fake advertising.
Yep. Fake. Yeah. All sorts of.
Election meddling.
Exactly. A lot of like people at each other's throats, a lot of political arguing. There's just Facebook, yeah. And a lot of like money dumped behind encouraging those political arguments. And so people aren't feeling all that great about Facebook right now. And what they did in this ad was completely shift the the whole discussion area. And like, if you think about the Facebook groups that you're a part of, it is kind of the one safe space on Facebook that isn't filled with that kind of vitriolic stuff. Is like useful and helpful, and you can get into hobbies and make friends. And so just by that like simple little let's talk about groups thing, I thought that was very, very, very smart on their part. So. Exactly, yeah, that same chief subtext in all the Super Bowl ads, look at what my peers must be doing. Maybe I should be doing this too, for sure. Yeah.
You're talking about like the effectiveness or like people's awareness of this commercial versus Jeep one.
Yeah.
How's that stuff being measured?
So there's, they do a lot of focus groups live during the Super Bowl, and a lot of like the Ad Age and Ad Week all do their own surveys, and then they don't talk about what their system is, but it's a mix of professional opinion and then popular opinion, and they've done it for years. They release their power rankings afterwards. So the top 5, if you're interested, are a question here.
What I was saying, I know Ivan at Avocados of Mexico
Yeah.
was one of them, and I think they also measured it based on how many times the hashtag
Oh, yeah.
for their ad came up, especially in social media channels, so Twitter, Instagram, how often they were retweeted or reposted or whatever, and that data also goes into that whole mix of how to evaluate the success.
Yeah. So brands all have their own metrics for how they're going to judge whether their Super Bowl ad worked or not. But then there's the kind of the vanity success metric is the Ad Week power rankings. So and those were the order on those. I'm going to forget a couple of them, but it was the Jeep Groundhog Day was number 1. Number 2 was the Hyundai Park Your Car Auto Park one. And then the other ones were there was the one with Jason Momoa was in there. I don't know, that was Rocket Mortgage?
Ellen was in there.
Ellen, yep, Ellen with, was that Alexa, the Amazon one? Okay. And then, I don't remember the 5th one. Yes, that was it, the really like heartstrings, sweet story one. I didn't like that one at all, but it was a good ad. I could tell it was a good ad. It just creeped me out, that one did. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple more that didn't get talked about. This is Dwight Schrute in the Little Caesars commercial.
Little Caesars delivery. That's the best thing since sliced bread.
We got a problem. There's a new best thing.
Okay, new ideas. Go.
Travel size bread.
Sparkle bread. Bread insurance.
Magnetic bread.
Dear Lord.
Run the numbers.
I ran the numbers.
Well, run them again.
You can do this. Come on, come on, come on. Talk to me.
Go out there and lead.
Thin slices, thick slices, diagonal slices. Yes, this might work. This might. What? No!
Everything is fine.
I've been following this turkey for a month. Sliced bread is toast.
I'm not gonna cry. Don't cry.
This is not happening. This is not happening.
I know there are concerns, but everything's fine.
Little Caesars delivery. Best thing since
Sliced bread. I know.
America's best value, now delivered.
Pizza.
So, yeah, nobody talked about that one. I thought it was like a really well-made commercial. Any subtext there that jumps out at you guys? I'm not looking for anything on this one. Obviously, the same goes. People must order a lot of Little Caesars if they can afford a Super Bowl spot. So that one's there. But anything else?
Perhaps that everyone feels threatened in the workplace by the shifts across the board.
Yeah.
Because of digital revolution. So everybody gets the pain of this.
Yeah, you identify with the pain of the unstable work environment. Yeah, for sure. Anything else?
Just because so many people are familiar with The Office that immediately they're
Yep. 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 I like Dwight Schrute, therefore maybe I like Little Caesars more than I used to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chris.
When you talk about like public perception of a company, and you think about what Little Caesars is to everyone, or what they think about it now, versus like what the message of this ad is, they might think that Little Caesars is just super low quality, low rent pizza, but then like throughout this ad, when they're saying best thing since sliced bread, it kind of like creates a new message in your head.
Yeah, and the other thing it does really well on that point is it's a really well crafted ad. If you look at just the framing of the shots and the set design, and like it is a well built commercial, and whether people are evaluating that or not consciously, I do think you pick up on those cues and then you associate it with the product in a way that I may not think that Little Caesars is all that great of a pizza, but this might shift that metric a little bit. So. Yeah, right, exactly. That too.
The weird thing was, they introduced like the delivery, but at the end of the commercial, like he loses it all, and then becomes a delivery.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like they're saying that it's good to deliver, and they're also saying like we don't care about this.
Yeah, that is a weird, like there's a little like social commentary in there too. I had the same reaction, but absolutely. They're dissing their own delivery people a little bit. Okay, I want to talk about a couple more, almost done. Actually, this is the last one. I'm just going to play it without setup.
America. Less than 1% of our farmland is organic. And farmers who want to transition face monumental challenges. What if we could help them? Simply by having a beer. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold introduces 6 for 6 pack. Pick up a 6-pack, we'll help transition 6 square feet of farmland to organic. So imagine, all these riders go for a 6-pack. This can go organic. If everyone who moves like them gets one, all of this can turn organic. 6-pack, 6 square feet. And if every football fan picks up a 6-pack, we could change America's organic farmland forever.
You can. You can. What the hell was that commercial? They spent that much money to tell people, we'll do a good thing, but only if you buy 6 beers at a time? Like, what? And do not. Socially conscious beer advertising is one of the things I struggle with the most. Budweiser, I used to think Budweiser was the worst, but this is my new worst one. Like, what? I really want to talk to the people behind that, but did that signal anything? I mean, I do want to open it up for conversation other than just pure mockery, as much as I like mocking things, but.
I thought it came across as desperate, like we're grasping at straws trying to get anyone to figure out how to buy this beer. Whereas Little Caesars was like, we've been killing it without even offering delivery, and so this is just an extra.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like opposite.
Yeah, this does feel, there is a desperation subtext of like, people don't like us, we better do something to make people like us. People like organic, that's the thing, right? People are into that.
It kind of reminded me of that ad with, what was it, Kylie Jenner, who handed that Pepsi to.
Yes, yeah, totally.
It's this desire of a brand to have activist-inspired advertising without that actually being what drives the brand, and I think that's
where the disconnect.
Disconnects in our heads, because we're like, I don't really think about that brand as a conscious environment supporter, and now they're trying to tell me that they are, and it reads insincere.
Absolutely. Yeah, that really also bit Verizon in the ass after the Super Bowl. Did you guys read about that? So they had the one where Harrison Ford was the voiceover, and it was all about first responders and supporting firemen and police people with better network technology and faster response times and this, that, and the other. Well, apparently there was a huge controversy not long ago in California during the wildfires when Verizon cut off the firefighters' cell usage when they started going over their cell use, and it like caused all these extra problems. And so that people brought that up immediately. It blew up in their faces, and it was a disaster. So yeah, you can't. People. That's another thing. People are really good at spotting. Audiences are smarter than we give them credit for. Is authenticity is in a brand. They can tell whether you mean it.
Now, does that piece happen if I go back to where you started in that brain 1 or brain 2?
Yeah, I think it happens in the
brain 1 or whatever it was called.
So
in that subconscious.
In the subconscious.
Doesn't, like, match up with our
Yes.
perception.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we can intellectualize as much as we want.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it starts there as we have little cues of what makes somebody authentic, what makes them trustworthy, what makes us believe that they believe what they're saying. And we don't, if you ask us to articulate what those are, we're not very good at it, but we do it well. We can pick up on when somebody's being honest with us. So, yes.
Is it more so the trend of alcoholic beverages being less alcoholic and organic and trying to capture this new trend of drinkers? But they overthought it.
Yeah.
To that point.
Yes.
It could have been simpler.
It absolutely could have. Yeah, I mean, if they had just gone with an organic beer message, and I mean, that's one thing. But yeah, all the layers of buy 6 and we'll convert 6 square feet of farmland. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Yes, please. Finally.
I hated this commercial. It was tragic, but I think it kind of speaks to like this generation being lazy activists.
Yeah.
In that they really compared like you buy this 1 6-pack, like if each person in the stadium buys this 1 6-pack, like it'll make this huge difference, rather than actually doing something like consistently productive or like something that's hard, like recycling or
Yeah. Oh, we brought this ad on ourselves. Yes, this is our own fault. I take full responsibility.
you want something, it's easy, it's lazy, and you kind of feel like part of something bigger than yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right.
and also instant gratification.
Yeah, it may work for them. It will break my heart if that's the case, but it could be.
I thought it was very tone deaf of their like demographic. I don't know a lot of people like drink Budweiser that care about much about
Yeah.
maybe that's profiling a little bit, but it just
Yeah.
didn't fit their
Right.
people.
Right. I'm gonna come back to Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think on that Michelob one, it's like they just doubled down because I don't drink Michelob. The whole time I was thinking, I was like, is that even true? Like, I want someone to fact check.
Exactly. Yeah.
But again, to your earlier point about just like sizing people up, like what I would think of someone who drinks like Michelob Ultra, they're probably watching it and they're like, hell yeah, like it just like caters them like, oh yeah, organic, that's good. It's just like kind of more superficial, I mean, even that brand is like you can drink beer and still be like fit and stuff. So I think they just doubled down to their audience, to like, hey, buy 2 6-packs instead of 1, and for everyone else, it's like never mind because like you already know it's bullshit.
Yep. Yeah.
So I was just looking at some data to kind of like see.
Oh yes, thanks. Please.
And so, Americans drinking less alcohol, it's on a 3 or 4 year decline due to beer consumption.
Yeah.
So when Michelob launched their Pure Gold brand last Super Bowl, which is the organic brand of beer, they saw a big increase in sales, wooing in a certain demographic.
Yep.
So they had surpassed like 59 million in 2018 after that. So to me, it's like they just were literally doubling down on that, and then trying to go to the next level, which is the impact and the social.
Yep. It might kill it for them. I mean.
But it's also, I think it brings up, I think to your point about what it's doing, like, and kind of a responsibility that like really not just advertisers, but like everyone something like that, because it's like, I think to your overarching point about like the subconscious and like what it's doing, it has this like bigger effect than everyone even thinks individually and collectively. So, and I think that's a very good point about how like from a cultural perspective, it does dove down with, for actual campaigns and people with some more substantive, goals from an activist standpoint. Yeah, that kind of shits on it a little bit.
Yep.
Whitewashed. And the problem with that is there's capacity there. It's like you're only gonna your market share, your market cap is
Exactly.
you're done.
That all makes sense. Yeah, good points. Chris.
Yeah, so on the market share thing, the way I look at this is I've worked in craft beer for a while now, and craft beer's really grown in the last like 7 to 10 years, and I look at this as a direct, like, kind of non-direct attack at craft beer, but I think a lot of people like supporting craft beer because they feel like it makes a difference. Like when they go into a brewery that's smaller and they can give them the money directly to the guy who owns the place, it makes a difference. And I feel like in the last 7 to 10 years, these beer commercials have been so terrible because they want to come across like they make a difference too.
Yeah.
And it just comes across so disingenuous because they just don't do the research. They just don't understand that clientele, and they keep losing
Yeah, I think you're right.
share. And so I looked at this as that, but also like they could have made it genuine if they did the research, because one of the cool things about craft beer is that it supports like the entire supply chain like very transparently. So like if they did a commercial that showed like how Michelob affects like the entire supply chain from like front to back, it could have been like much more genuine. But it's just like I guess there's like an idea that Michelob is so big they could actually make that big of a difference. But I think a lot of people who support beer now kind of like supporting smaller guys.
Yeah.
So I just think
Sure.
it was like the research was just completely lacking.
Thanks, Chris.
So I really like whenever a brand is behind a cause. I think it's very relevant to the way we think nowadays. But I think they would have done a lot better getting behind a cause that was applicable to them.
Exactly.
Let's say like Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yep.
I kind of like to see an alcoholic beverage get behind that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's we actually, Bo and I started Kickstand with doing that kind of thing as our intended goal, is partnering brands with causes that actually supported the brand and made sense for the brand and felt authentic and could be carried on. And that's a great idea. Yeah, we do a little bit of it, not nearly as much as we'd like, but yes, so much cause marketing out there just has nothing to. I mean, even the NFL with, the breast cancer awareness. I mean, it's just like, if you're going to pick a cause, breast cancer is a great cause, but like pick something that makes sense for your brand that you could stick with. So, yeah. Yeah, right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Question kind of based on all this that ties back to your thesis. And so you were talking about social norms, and from an advertising perspective, like catering to that.
Yeah.
Because that just like empirically makes the most sense from a effect standpoint. But like, I think especially nowadays, there's so many like smaller brands and like anti-brands. Like for instance, like the example of yours, the co-working space with no inspirational quotes. So like that's like saying like, okay, we're the anti-co-working space, or like, we're the anti-agency, or we're the anti-plumber, or whatever. So if that's like your brand, and I think that has to do with cause marketing too. It's kind of like the not as of a popular, whatever. So what's the play there? So how do you do it there? Because you're kind of like trying to cater to like anti-social norms, and it's like outliers. So what do you do? How do you do it successfully when your brand's an outlier and you're like catering to other outliers? Are you still appealing to like that as a social norm? Like, okay, here's a bunch of like people who want to be anti.
Yeah, I don't think there's I don't think there's any, as long as you're deliberate about what you're after, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. It just needs to be something you can pull off consistently and authentically. And if you can do that as an outlier brand or as a challenger brand or as an anti-brand and wear it authentically, people, some people are going to spark to that. So it really has to do with pulling it off well. It's more about the execution than anything.
So it's really like still the same theory of catering to like a norm, but just like a smaller group of people.
Yeah, I think exactly. Yeah, it's just finding your niche. And I should make clear that just because I say it doesn't make it true. I'm full of shit. Like I have never had I've had a local Super Bowl ad in a couple markets. I've never done a big national Bowl ad. I've pitched many of them. I actually had one of the things I'm most proud of. I got rejected by Stephen Colbert for a Bridgestone Super Bowl ad. I was going to have him be as a barbarian king in this fantasy world where he was judging. It was based on the Solomon story with the mothers and the baby, and I was going to have him offer to cut a tire in half to settle a dispute. Anyway, my favorite thing I ever got to do was write him a cover letter trying to convince him to do it, and he passed. So that's my second proudest advertising moment, getting rejected by Stephen Colbert. So. Yes.
So when I hear a lot of this, I immediately go and think, with your advertising thesis, I start thinking about positioning, right? So it's all about positioning the brand. So going kind of the next step, because you alluded to it with Facebook, you say considering where they're at or something as a brand.
Yeah.
So I always think of okay, if I'm a brand entering the market, I want to position myself. If I'm a brand that's established in the market, I want to deposition my competition. And then if I'm, in Facebook status or something else, I want to have remedial campaigns to kind of save face. What do you do to kind of determine those different marketing kind of status?
We like to start with strategy. So by talking to both the companies that we work with and getting a sense of what's not working, what has worked, what used to work and started declining, and then also talking separately to consumers and their customers to get a sense of how much the reality of the competitive landscape lines up with the business's realities internally. And there's not a cookie cutter approach to that. It's different for every client. But yeah, and getting that right from the ground up and being strategic about the problem you're trying to solve is super important. It all hinges on that. So. That's all I got. Any other questions? Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm still stuck on Ted's screen.
Yeah.
So you're talking kind of about those different point of entries and how they inherently, show a point of credibility. And for Ted's screen, the only way I really consider it is because it's a full-blown commercial. But I think that Ted's an asshole. So, did you guys consider that a risk to kind of?
Yeah, so our hope was that since we, the brand, were calling Ted the asshole, and that people would see it as self-deprecating and us mocking ourselves, which also is a signifier of trustworthiness. And then humor again is a signifier of intelligence and likability and trustworthiness. So making fun of ourselves is something we like to do a lot because it implies confidence. This is if we can diss our own product and our own people, then it must be good, is where we're trying to get anyway. Yeah.
So, in regards to that same commercial, do you then have any measurements afterwards that basically say or show that there is an increase either in sales, revenue, and or brand recognition?
Oh yeah, we've got. Sales data on this. Ted's is a tiny company, so we don't have. We'd love to have detailed consumer segmentation data. When we're not big enough to have that, but we do have sales data and viewership and awareness and all that stuff. And it was. We have helped that company grow quickly, and it's one of our pride points for sure as an agency. So, yeah.
I know your background from back in the day was science, right? Didn't you intern at the CERN thing?
Yeah. How did you know? Yeah, I was. Oh, I did. Okay, funny. Yeah, my first job was as an intern at the superconducting super collider in the control systems division there. So yeah, before in Waxahachie before it got shut down. So. Yeah.
So you just seem very the way that you're presenting everything, just the way you work is I look at that, it's very science driven, empirical, and how much of that
That's a good question. So my advertising background is purely creative, so it's like I just try to make things that I think are fun and interesting, and I almost treat it like art that I don't have a high personal stake in. But before we get to the creation part, that's when the analytical side comes in and it tries to understand the ground conditions and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And yeah, absolutely. And the other part that's been fun. So yeah, I went to college for biophysics originally, and then partway in switched to literature and ended up in advertising accidentally. So I do have a really strong interest in science, and sort of accidentally it has led to like clients like this Ted's Pain Cream, where it's it's a neuroscience department at the University of Texas at Dallas, and then we have other scientist clients. We have we're working with a toxicology researcher who has a new product. She's like this badass 65-year-old scientist that created a patent for a ricin vaccine. So it's a vaccine against a toxin as opposed to a virus or a bacteria. I mean, fascinating. And then we have another group of clients that's one guy is the neurosurgeon that pioneered vagus nerve stimulation, so it's surgical implants in the vagus nerve, which according to our other scientist friends, they all know this guy and say there's a good chance he could get a Nobel Prize one day. I mean, so it's accidentally sort of what you're interested in. Our experience has been is what you kind of draw to yourselves over time in business, and that's been really fun to see sort of organically play out. So thanks, that was a good question.
Good deal. All right, well, let's give Matt a round of applause.
Thank you, sir.